Hi, this is Dr. Mike of WTF, What the Fuck, Dr. Mike and Marty. Marty, how you doing?
Well, good, except it's weird things from Dr. Mike and Marty. WTF, Dr. Mike and Marty.
Wouldn't weird things also constitute a what the fuck?
Well, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Sure it would. Most of the time. Well, pretty much everything we talk about, you just want to go, what?
Well, that's something about tonight. You know, I wanted to do a rant, but after you calm down and think about it, you don't need to do a rant. I don't need to do a rant. This is stuff right here that I want to talk about tonight that anybody who's watching this can Google it. You know, thank God for Google. You know, some people use Bing, some people use other stuff, but everything I'm about to tell you, you can look up on Google. And it's horrific, it's frightening, it's disgusting, and it makes you wonder what kind of world that we are living in when the elite and the power elite and the politicians and all these people that we're supposed to look up to and we're supposed to vote for and that we're supposed to admire and try to emulate are nothing more than a bunch of fucking scumbags. You know, and I like to start with a few notes that I made. I do shorthand notes, so I don't have to have a big stack of paper here. But one of the first things I think I probably should point out for the state of Colorado is we have somebody by the name of Polis. Last name is Polis, and he's running for governor. And again, Google. Apparently this man, several years ago, his last name was Schultz or something like that, a German-sounding name, and he assaulted a woman in his office. He's a business owner. And after he got through with her, he refused to let her call 911 and basically locked her in his office. Then he called the police and said she did this and she did that. Well, apparently the judge saw through that nonsense, that bullshit, and granted her a permanent restraining order against him. Well, he tried to get the restraining order quashed, and the judge said no way. So he turns around and changes his name from whatever it was, Schultz or something to that effect. It doesn't even matter what it used to be. What matters is what it is now, and it's Polis, and he's running for governor. Basically, he committed this crime, refused to allow the victim to call for help, and then turned around and changed his name so he could stay in politics, and none of us would be any wiser. Because we're all stupid. We're all sheep. We have to vote for him, and my God, who could find out that he changed his name because of what he did to this woman? The guy's a dirtbag. He is absolutely no different, in my opinion, than any other common rapist or molester that's out there. And that brings up quite a few other ones. I would like for you to take time on your own time to go to Google and look up Orgy Island and to look up Lolita Island. Lolita's Lolita. So Orgy Island and Lolita Island. These islands are owned by billionaires, multi-mega billionaires. And these guys, they're kind of in international water. So they kind of feel they're untouchable. And on these islands are resorts for those who have money. And pretty much on every one of those islands, it's well known by Interpol, it's well known by other law enforcement agencies, that they're children, and the children are used for their pleasure. Now, from what I understand, what I have read, I gotta look at my shorthand here, that the ideal age for kids on these islands that these people want to have are between the ages of 4 years old and 12 years old. Think about that. A preschooler, an elementary schooler, a junior high schooler. Children, girls, boys, that these people ruin their lives. And I'm not even sure how the children get there. In some cases, the parents let them go because it's supposed to be some big special project that this guy has. But if you look them both up, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Frequent people to those islands are Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden, and of course we can't forget the old President Clinton. He's there too, and that rolls over into something else. Joe Biden, there's over 1,000 tapes of Joe Biden on YouTube and Venmo and other places in which he is a fodderer. A fodderer is a scientific, psychological term for someone who likes to touch, feel, squeeze, make contact with, in a sexual way, younger people. And there are so many on that. I mean, he could not deny it. No one could deny it. President Obama couldn't deny it, that he is, in fact, a pervert. He is a child molester. And there are many films of him having little girls at parties and meetings and dinners that he's held on to and hugging them and rubbing their hair and kissing them. And the most recent one was a young boy. Now, this is Joe Biden, Vice President of the United States, okay? And he wants to run for president again. So we've got Polis, who wants to run for governor of Colorado, and that's not even his real name. And then we've got Biden, who wants to run for president, who is a fodderer. He's a child molester. And it is enough audio-visual proof that any psychologist, any psychiatrist, anywhere could simply take a look and go, oh, yeah, he's got some serious problems. Even in one of the films, Hillary is backing off, trying to push away from him. And so it just kind of makes you wonder, how are we getting these people in power? How are we getting these people that are supposed to lead us and set examples and talk to other world leaders and talk to the elites here, the one percenters or whatever, about making projects happen and stuff, when they themselves have their own projects, and their projects are molesting our children. Their projects are pedophilia. And we sit back, and so many people don't want to hear it. So many people want to have a support system that proves that the lies that they hear are true. And they don't want to know that the truth is inconvenient. They don't want to hear it. Just please tell me the lie that I've always been told is okay. It's true. That's not the case. That's not the case at all, because it's still happening. Okay, every other week you hear about an elementary school teacher, a junior high teacher or coach, or a high school teacher or coach, or even a college teacher or coach molesting children, molesting students, having sex with them. And it's amazing. When I first became a psychologist, one of my first jobs was being a child psychologist for the school system. And I was operating out of a private office in Colorado Springs, Colorado. And it was amazing to me to see how many people, students, families, family members, molested children, had sex with their own kids, grandparents having sex with their own kids. I had a woman tell me, oh, you work here? I was like, yeah, I'm the psychologist on staff. She goes, well, the only reason you would be a child psychologist is if you were a pervert. And I said, well, what happened to you? Why would you say something like that? You know, and then she commenced to tell me about her life and what her father, her grandfather, and her uncle did to her. And of course, when they had a school meeting on it, a couple of the male teachers got involved too. So she had at least 5 males when she was a child having sex and sexual contact with her. Now, something's wrong with that. Those are our children. Those are the children that we're supposed to protect. A child that's molested by these kind of people, their childhood's taken away. They don't have the Barbie dolls. They don't have the baseball, the softball. They don't have the scouts and all these types of things, unless there's a scout master doing it. They just don't have it in their lives. Their lives are ruined. Their lives are stopped. You see a lot of people that I come into contact with as a psychologist. And these people, 20, 25, 30 years old, are acting like they're 14, 15, 12 years old. And the reason for that is because at the age that this starts is when the person stops developing. They're always forever a child until they get a lot of help, a lot of psychological, and even religious, if it's a good religion, not like Islam, where child molestation is totally, completely part of Sharia law. I mean, that's perfectly fine. But I'm talking about real help. And if I go back here a second, let's talk about a couple just recently came out with LAPD and a few other agencies. Kevin Spacey, the movie star, 13 complaints from 13 parents from 13 different parts of the United States whose children were extras or parts of movies in which he fondled their penises and testicles, kissed, etc., etc. LAPD said they can't do anything about it. He's too powerful, he's too strong, and they just didn't have enough information, even though all these children from different places were telling the same types of stories. Their parents didn't talk to each other, the parents didn't know each other, the kids didn't know each other. What are we going to do about that? And then, of course, we have Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby, on the other end of the rainbow, was doing it to adult women, drugging them and having sex. He denied it for years. David Chappelle, the comedian, did a bit about it in 1988. Now, that's a long time ago. And so many of these movie stars and comedians and directors and people knew about it. They were aware, but no one did anything. And every time somebody complained, they just said no. And he'd say, nope, I didn't do it, I didn't do it, I didn't do it. But he did do it, and he finally admitted to it. And then all of a sudden, he's in trouble. And he's going to be sent to prison. Oh, lo and behold, right before he goes to prison, he loses his sight. He has to have somebody guide him everywhere he goes by the hand, like he's like he's blind. Yet at other times you see him and he's functioning perfectly normal, walking on his own, getting and going. So I guess if you're one of those types of people, you've always got a backup plan. You know, oh, I'm crazy, or I can't see, or I can't hear. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought it was okay. And these are actually some of the things that people say. There's a general officer, a commanding general, on a military base in Colorado a couple of years ago. And he and his wife were going to a rather important dinner. And they had asked one of his soldiers who worked in the command headquarters if he wanted to babysit, take care of my kid for a little bit. When he got back, he found that this child, 3-year-old girl, had been raped. She was bleeding. It was pretty bad. The general damn near killed him, called the military police, called the sheriff's department. And they came, and when they took him in, he said, I didn't do it. I didn't want to do it. She asked for it. She came on to me. She was flirting and touching me, and I couldn't resist her. So I wound up having sex with her, a 3-year-old girl. This happens more than we care to know. What happened the other day in Los Angeles? 300 adults. 300 adults were arrested by the LA County Sheriff's Department and the Los Angeles Police Department for having a pedophile ring. Hundreds of kids were involved, as young as 3, and some in the tweens, 11, 12 years old. And it's amazing. Detroit, a couple of days prior to that, had a raid. They recovered 120 missing children between the ages of 5 and 10 that had been put into this brothel, if you will, for children, in which had a regular pedophile clientele coming to see these kids. These are our children. These are our nephews, our nieces, our grandchildren. There are cousins, our nieces and nephews. And these people are being molested. Not all of them. I'm not going to say that. But a lot of them are, and they're afraid to tell. A letter came out the other day from a entertainment lawyer, and he claims that Heather O'Rourke, one of the she was an absolutely beautiful child, intelligent. They said she was actually one of the smartest kids ever to go on stage, and Spielberg picked her up when she was 5 and put her in some movies. Well, allegedly she started getting molested at age 5. Makes you wonder who did that. And then she was apparently, now this is what this entertainment lawyer is saying, I don't know, LAPD's looking into it, said that they hired her to do a show because she was truly a little top star. She was a beautiful girl. And they apparently took her in the back and they inserted something into her rectum, and it caused a perforation. Well, the paramedics came, they took her to the hospital, and they said, she was born with it. It was a birth defect. And on that particular day, at that particular time, it just happened to burst. and she died of sepsis before they could get her completely on the surgery table. At first, they said it was a drunk doctor that almost cut her in half with a laser type of a scalpel. Well, I've been around medicine since 1996. That's when I got my first license. And I've never known it. I've thought about it and I thought about it. I've never known a laser scalpel that would send out a beam like that could literally cut a person in half. Okay, they're usually very small and they're very localized. And so when you think about this letter, you think about what he claims, and you think about how it happened and what happened between paramedics, emergency room, and surgery, it makes sense. God, I hope it's not true. I hope it's not true. And if it is, I hope that the people who did it are found out and are tortured beyond their wildest imaginations. That Satan himself has a glorious carnival of horrors and terrors just for them. And I hope that they get raped and killed in prison. That's not unusual or too much to ask, because these people are not humans in our sense. They're animals, they're beasts, they're demonic, if you want to use that word. Why would you do something like that to a child? Why would you allow something like that to be done to a child? Yet every time something happens, everybody wants to shut up. They don't want to talk about it. It didn't happen. How many people, when the Catholic priest, which is a trust level beyond the imagination, a priest was having sex with little boys, and little boys were coming home and they were bleeding from their rectum and stuff. So many parents said, no, it didn't happen. Priests would never do that. Well, so many turned out that it was true, but no one wants to believe it. Oh, not my kid. Nobody did that to my kid. Well, in a lot of cases, people say, oh, my kid's going to go on a camping trip. They're going to be gone for a week, or they're going to be gone for that. And I'm thinking to myself, why aren't you going? Or why aren't you sending a member of your family to be with that kid as a chaperone? But they don't. And then when it happens, oh, no, not me. I was talking to somebody yesterday who was fought in the Afghan war, and he was an observer. And his job was to go forward and use binoculars or other sights to launch in artillery, and also to tell some of the gunships, helicopters and like A-10s and different things where to hit, because he could see them clearly. And he said he stood the whole time. I was like, why didn't you get down? But he said bullets were flying past him, bullets were over his head, bullets were next to him, and he still called out, these positions. And I asked him, I said, why? I mean, my God, wouldn't you get down and hide in a bush or behind some rocks and do it? He goes, no, I wasn't worried about getting hit. And I said, why? They were shooting at you. And he said, well, it never happened before. Okay, it never happened before. What happens when that one hit you? Then you be singing a different tune. To me, all of our soldiers who are overseas, whether they're in Cameroon or Iraq or Afghanistan or Somalia, wherever that, we have troops in 19 countries. It's not just the ones you keep hearing about. It's in 19 different countries. To me, they are heroes. They're there fighting a cause to protect us here at home. And yeah, you say, God, these guys are heroes. They're tough, wonderful people, these men and women. Yet even they have that attitude. They're getting shot at by live ammunition from AK-47s or, other weapons, and they're just standing there. I've never been hit before. I wasn't worried about it. Well, there's always that one time. Parents, same way. Oh, I dropped my kid off at the studio. I dropped my kid off at the skating rink. And, no, they're fine. I trust that coach. What happened to the Olympic coach? 128 girls he molested his entire career as an Olympic coach, from when they were little girls working their way up. 128 girls. And people say, him? Oh my God, no, that couldn't be. Well, this is the same thing people were saying about Bill Cosby. These are the same thing people were saying about Kevin Spacey. These are things which I can't understand. People are saying about Joe Biden, when there's enough film and movies and recordings of him physically doing it in front of other people. That's why he's a fodder. It's like I said, it's a psychological term in which he don't give a shit. He'll do it right there. He'll do it in front of the parents. He feels he's entitled. And the only person that I know of that ever stood up to him was a one-star general who Biden was petting his or his daughter in a very negative way, and he stepped up and said, "Get your hands off my daughter." And of course, Secret Service got involved and everything because they were pretty sure this guy was going to kick his ass, and he should have. But these are the types of things that we deal with on a day-to-day, night-to-night basis that we don't even know about until it's past, until it's over. Police ask him, "Well, why didn't you tell? Why didn't you come out?" "Well, said he'd kill my parents. He said he'd kill my pets. He said he'd drag me away from school." You know? People say there are great families, wonderful families that we should emulate, that we should try to be like. Remember the show 19 Kids and Counting? The Duggars. And their son, well, I think he's in the middle of the pack, turns out he molested sexually 3 of his sisters, a piano teacher, and a babysitter. Okay? Then they took him to get help. And the state police, where he was at, sent a specialist in this to help him. Turns out the specialist was arrested for molesting over 20 children himself and was sentenced to prison. He's a state trooper. So, the probabilities and the possibilities of your child being around one of these people, whether they do something to your child or not, is very high. Schools, churches, I myself, I had to raise 2 girls, stepdaughters, and when we went to restaurants and stuff, wouldn't let them go to the bathroom by themselves. One of us went with them. If they were at rarely we go to a buffet, but if we did, and they wanted to go get, the dessert like kids do. I want to go to the dessert table. Somebody went with them. "Oh, I can do it. I'll be back." No, you're not going to do it. One of us is going to go with you. So I think that every parent and every straight, clean teacher that doesn't do this type of stuff, and police officers and deputy sheriffs, should have an open mind and open eyes to this. Watch your children. Be with your children. Don't send them off to some place like a skating rink or a rehearsal all by themselves where they're going to be for a couple hours maybe. Go with them. Have a chaperone go with them. An older brother or sister, anything. Because this is a horrible thing. And I'm sitting here looking at my notes, and I'm not even going to go through all of them. I can't. I can't. This has happened so much, so often, that just in this short list I have in shorthand, I could go over 400 or 500 cases of people with power, people with prestige, people of influence, what they've done to children. And I'm not a political person. I couldn't give a shit one way or the other about this senator or that senator or this congressperson or this president or this vice president or some governor or lieutenant governor. But we've got, like I said, Polis running for governor in Colorado right now. The guy is nothing more than a very vicious rapist. We've got Biden, who wants to run for president, who is an out-and-out, they call him Dirty Uncle Joe or Crazy Uncle Joe in Washington, D.C. And he's out there. What's going to stop him when he gets that kind of power? Okay? And I could go down my list to even more, and I just don't want to. I'm sitting here with Marty, trying to enjoy a little hot chocolate, and I'm looking at this, and I'm just get sicker and sicker as I read my own notes. So I want you to go to Google. I want you to look up Orgy Island. I want you to look up Lolita Island. I want you to look up Biden. I want you to look up Polis and Kevin Spacey, all this stuff. Just look it up. Read it for yourselves. These islands that these people of power and prestige go to have meetings and to play with children. It's sick. Something needs to be done. And if you're watching this, and if you're listening to this, and if you're looking this stuff up on Google, do something about it. Don't just read it. Do something about it. What Marty and I are doing is they're putting out this kind of do it up in a few seconds type of semi-rant, if you will, to bring your attention to it, because it's happening right now. Don't be afraid. People talk about wanting to save animals. People talk about wanting to help animals and stop fur and factory farming and all these things. But if you mention Animal Liberation Front, the people that actually physically go out and intervene in this stuff, oh, no, we can't do that. Let's sign petitions. Let's carry signs around. They'll stop. No, they won't. No, they won't. Ain't gonna work. You get a group, I'm not saying Animal Liberation Front type group, I'm just saying a group that takes action. And I'm certainly not talking about groups like Antifa, which are domestic terrorists, and they're against us, not just things. They're against anybody that's not a socialist or a communist they're after. But find some way, I can't even think of what to say. A community group, a city group, to fight this, to look into it. Make the police do it. Make the sheriff's departments do it. Make the troopers do it. Make the FBI get involved. Colorado, we have the Colorado Bureau of Investigations. You have in Georgia, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Arizona, that's the highest law in that state, with the exception like FBI. Get them involved. Get everyone involved. Don't give up. Just keep it going and going and going, because this type of stuff, they're killing children, sacrificing them to whatever it is they're doing, and having sex with kids. And it said the preferred age of a pedophile in several publications was between the ages of 3 years old and 12. 3 years old and 12. I can only end this one by saying thank you, Marty, for helping me throw this together and by running everything as you always do. And thank you for giving me this voice between shows. And what are you going to do? Anybody out there, what are you going to do? This shit is real. And I hope that it doesn't get so real that it affects you and your family. Thanks for listening to WTF, Dr. Mike and Marty. Have a good one.